What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing sort of a free flow breakdown of the final trailer for The Mandalorian. For those of you that are wondering, this will be on Disney Plus November 12th, and of course I'll be breaking down every single episode and talking about every episode. I wanted to do a sort of different type of breakdown because I feel like, honestly, as far as the Mandalorian trailer is pertaining to, there's not a whole lot to break down shot by shot, where something like a big saga movie like The Rise of Skywalker, you can break down shot by shot.
And it's also like we know very little about it in the first place, so there's not a whole lot of detail you could bring into it.
Right. With that said, though, there are a few small details that I would like to talk about over the course of the breakdown. But for this, I just wanted to share with you guys the overall plot of everything we know about The Mandalorian, what the time period is, what is going on, who is the Mandalorian, and then we'll get into the little details of the trailer. So I want to focus on some of the first lines of the trailer, where it's coming from a high-ranking Imperial that the Mandalorian actually has captured, and his voiceover carries out through the whole trailer. He basically says, "It's a shame what happened to your people," pretty much confirming what we already knew, that of course this character is a Mandalorian. And he's referring to how ever since the events of the Clone Wars, basically, the planet and the people of Mandalore have been sort of headed downhill.
Yeah.
So while Jango Fett was a Mandalorian, and even in Legends continuity was like the leader of Mandalore, for those of you that watched the Clone Wars, you know he wasn't really even affiliated with it at all. And over the course of the Clone Wars, Mandalore was taken under control by Darth Maul and Savage Opress. And eventually, although they were freed from them by the end of Clone Wars, Darth Maul would actually go back and take the planet over yet again.
Yeah.
Basically, Mandalore was a war-ridden world that is not a war-driven people or culture anymore. So a lot of the people suffered. And then moving into the Imperial era, Mandalore suffered as well because the Empire took not kindly to Mandalore either. So he's basically talking about how the Mandalorian people have really been diminished in numbers since the events of the Clone Wars when things really went bad. And I think that this is very much on purpose to coincide with the release of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, 'cause that's going to be a big deal in Season 7, right?
Right. The Mandalore plot will be a massive plot in Season 7 of the Clone Wars. Ahsoka was actually battling Maul on the planet of Mandalore when Order 66 was enacted. And if you've read the Ahsoka novel, which they'll be adapting into Season 7 of the Clone Wars, it's got a ton of plot details that have to do with Mandalore and focusing on Mandalore and its downfall. Anyway, so it sounds like that this Mandalorian, it's unknown if he was young at the time when Death Watch was being created or if he has any association with Death Watch at all. But what's cool about Mandalorians is they're basically described as people in the Star Wars universe, like just a normal humanoid, but their reflexes are better, they're stronger, they're just a warrior mentality. In Legends and both in canon, a Mandalorian was some of the few individual in the entire galaxy that were known to be capable of killing Jedi Knights in combat.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting, which is also another reason why the cloning template, they selected a Mandalorian in Jango Fett.
Yeah.
They knew that they wanted good warriors, but also secretly, Palpatine wanted to clone a Mandalorian who had that heritage within him of killing Jedi before.
Yeah, that way they could execute Order 66 and kill all the Jedi with ease. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's kind of some of the plot on Mandalore as a culture in the first few lines of the trailer. Moving into the events of the time period of The Mandalorian itself, it takes place in a time period that hasn't been explored basically at all in Star Wars. Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens has a massive gap. We roughly know what happens in the Star Wars Aftermath books and various comic books, but we don't really know the little details. The Mandalorian takes place 5 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. Emperor Palpatine has been seemingly killed for 5 years ago. Darth Vader was redeemed 5 years ago. And the New Republic is working on the core inner worlds of the galaxy and holding them together and establishing a New Republic there. With that said, there are still pieces of the Empire in the outer rim, in the outer regions of space, that aren't really a part of this larger entity anymore known as the Empire. They're sort of these small little subsects that are still loyal to the ultimate cause. And these subsects will eventually, one day, most likely become the First Order. So the Mandalorian is kind of hired to liberate some of these worlds or one of these worlds over the course of the plot, and that's kind of what's going on as far as the Empire is concerned. They've basically lost the war. They're down and out, and now they're trying to control whatever they can, which I think is really interesting. Now going into some of the smaller details, early on in the trailer, we see the Mandalorian attacking 2 Trandoshans, which, as you've pointed out off recording, is the same species as Bosk. Trandoshans are quite famous for being bounty hunters because they're big in stature. They love hunting game. Yeah. They even will capture people and bring them to planets to hunt for sport, similar to like predators.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So they're very much equipped to be bounty hunters. So that's kind of what I think is happening there. I think that the Mandalorian is coming into conflict with 2 other bounty hunters. And bounty hunting will also be a major theme and a plot throughout the Mandalorian. Carl Weathers, we know, is the leader of a bounty hunter group and an organization.
And there's a shot at the end where you could see him and his bounty hunters.
Yeah, it's quite
they look
cool.
Great.
Absolutely. As far as other stuff, we heard rumors initially that the Mandalorian would at one point be visiting the planet of Tatooine. Again, that is not something that's officially confirmed, but it is looking likely. There's even some imagery in the trailer itself that looks very similar to Tatooine.
Yeah, that could be where he actually encounters the Trandoshans.
Yeah, it's very, very possible. As far as other stuff to point out, this isn't new information, but we see that the Mandalorian has utilized carbonite freezing to deliver his bounties, which is also cool.
Yeah. It would be awesome if they show you in the series that the carbonite freezing doesn't work very often. That would be a fun detail.
It would be interesting if there were actually casualties due to the freezing process.
Yeah.
And then as far as the biggest thing that I want to point out in this trailer, it actually appears as if there's Clone Wars technology and Clone Wars era technology that are being utilized by what organization we don't know.
Yeah. It'll either be the remnants of the Empire. It would be cool if they were like running so low on stormtroopers that they were trying to utilize older technology. Or maybe it could be like the bounty hunters themselves utilizing that older technology to help them like find people, hunt them down and stuff. We know very little about it right now, but it's interesting where they could go with it.
And by Clone Wars technology, I actually mean that we can see a droid gunner from the Clone Wars, again, the Separatists, in the trailer, which is awesome because we haven't seen a droid gunner on screen since like Revenge of the Sith. And we also see what looked to be a modified version of the B2 super battle droids. The super battle droids being the droids that most famously were in Attack of the Clones and then Revenge of the Sith. They are the droids that surround Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi in the arena. Now, you got to keep in mind, this is decades after those events went down. So you have to think that the Empire has potentially found a stronghold of droids. In the comics, actually, before Darth Vader has utilized a stronghold of droids that he's discovered. And there's also a lot of other stories with what exactly happened with the droid army. The majority of the droid army was simply shut down by Palpatine, who controlled it all secretly. But I definitely think that that is the biggest revelation that we have in this trailer so far. Did you have any other things that you wanted to point out?
Nothing other than just like how visually striking everything is. I mean, it looks so good for a TV show. There's a cool like species that they show like the Mandalorian fighting or like trying to capture. That's like a big rhinoceros that looks absolutely amazing. You know, all the ships look great. It's just so cool looking. And there's the moment at the end where there's that. What is the line exactly about? Like they're waiting for you outside, and then he's like, you know, good.
Yeah,
it's cool. Like the spirit that he has of like, I'm just ready to kill everybody.
Right.
Bring them on. I'll take them all. And
I also want to point out a little small detail about what appears to be the rebel bounty hunter in the series, who we see a lot featured in the like promotional material for the series, as well as in the trailer. She appears to have a relationship with the Mandalorian, not as far as like boyfriend girlfriend or anything, but like comrades.
Yeah.
Something that we know about her is she actually has a rebel tattoo on her face, and she was previously a rebel shock trooper, which is kind of like heavy infantry for the Rebel Alliance. We also see what I assume to be other bounty hunters, of course, one played by Bill Burr.
Oh, yeah, with an awesome shoulder cannon thing, kind of like the Predator. It's so cool. Bill Burr, what a great guy.
Yeah. I'm really excited for this trailer. I mean, not for the trailer, for the series as a whole.
Yeah.
I think that this trailer is perfect, where it gives us intrigue, but not a lot.
Yeah, I feel like this show is very much holding back what they're showing us. And like what we'll see in the actual show, I'm sure is going to actually be way more impressive than these trailers. I really do feel like they're holding back.
Yeah. I just think that it's really exciting to see the production